Hello and welcome to What Today. Today is the 26th of August. This is a part of a larger current affairs program, which includes What a Day, What a Week, and What a Month. To know more about this, you can check out a video which I have enclosed in the description box at the end of this. So today is a Friday, and thank God it's a Friday. And if not for the aspirants, the Hindu newspaper is celebrating a Friday for sure. And therefore, for those of you who read the Hindu newspaper, you will see a lot of relief because there is very little that actually needs to be done from the Hindu newspaper today. And there are a lot of issues which are common to the Hindu and the Indian Express. In fact, except for a few editorials here or there, the papers mostly report the same thing. So for those of you who read the Hindu newspaper, now is the time to take the newspaper out, keep it in front of you, and read the newspaper as and when you get along with the video. So let's start with the Hindu newspaper. On page number 1, the only piece of information which is important for you is an update on the Supreme Court case concerning Pegasus. Now, for those of you who have absolutely no idea about what Pegasus is, what you could do is, in the live current affairs tracker that I've given you, in the conceptual reference, I have enclosed a video that I had made on the Pegasus issue and how is it relevant for UPSC aspirants. This has been going on for quite some time. The case did not get any hearings due to several reasons. But the larger issue is that there were several reports that were released by several investigative journalistic outfits, wherein a defense technology firm based out of Israel, who was authorized by the Israel government to only sell this technology to other national governments. And that technology is called Pegasus. It is a software of sorts, which does not require to be physically embedded in a phone, but can allow you to trace and monitor the contents of the phone. Now, this is allegedly to be used as a tool of surveillance all across the world, and India was allegedly no exception, where several members of the government, opposition, lawyers, activists, journalists, and so on and so forth, alleged that this could be a violation of their privacy and the freedom of speech. So this Pegasus issue is not just an issue of privacy, of digital rights, about surveillance, but it is also an issue of the freedom of expression, particularly for those journalists, because if a journalist is speaking to their source and the trust that the journalist and the source have is confidential and must be protected at all costs, otherwise the journalist and the source might be demotivated to write the truth about difficult issues. Having said that, this is a work in progress. What happens right now is that the Supreme Court had actually appointed a committee to examine whether Pegasus was actually being used and whether it was being used by the government as a tool of surveillance. Now, it is just that the committee has said that yes, malware was found in these phones, but they don't have any specific proof that it was the malware of Pegasus. The issue as such is an issue of rights, is an issue of ethics. Will you get a dedicated question in paper 2 that says examine the Pegasus issue as a rights violation? No, because it is slightly controversial in nature. In the mains exam, you would use this as a larger context of digital rights, of freedom of speech and expression, and of course, press rights as well. So that is that. Apart from that, just read the article once and watch the video first and then read the article. You'll understand the context of it all. There's not much that you have to worry about as far as the first page is concerned. As we were mentioning, the case is now in progress with respect to the Supreme Court, which has now entertained a petition and has in fact sent a notice to the Gujarat government asking for their side of the story. And of course, all the people who were convicted and then later released on remission grounds may be considered or reconsidered by the court. So let this pan out entirely. Once it's done and over with, we will have more clarity and closure on the issue. But as of now, just the malware issue on the first page needs to be done. And from here itself, you could directly jump to the 8th page. None of it from page number 2 to page number 7 is of any relevance as far as the exam is concerned. Now, on page number 8, there is an article that says freebies, a judicial lead and a multi-layered issue. Now, this, of course, is the freebies in terms of what they are given as a part of welfare schemes in the forms of, say, subsidies or direct benefit transfers or even um, free goods and services. So an analysis of whether it makes sense from a political standpoint, from an economic standpoint. This is a good editorial. It helps you prepare a consolidated note on freebies. So read it, bookmark it, keep it aside. And once the whole freebies issue is closed, we'll take the best editorials on freebies, put it together, and prepare a lovely consolidated note. Once I'm done with the sports regulation water week, and once the freebies issue is out of the papers after a few days, I'll make a water week on freebies as well. So just keep a tag of it. Do read the article. This is an important one. This has to be read under all circumstances. So please do so. Now, apart from this, as you can see on page number 8, none of the other editorials are actually important. The one with respect to the Tricolor campaign or the issues between Russia and Ukraine in terms of the lines of communication, and the editorial here, which is about the LGBTQIA community, while it does raise some pertinent points, and it says that apart from nomenclature, there is a lot more that needs to be done for the LGBTQIA plus community. LGBTQIA stands for lesbian, gays, bisexual, transgenders, queer, intersex, and asexual. Now, what you could do is, if you have a little idea about it, and if you don't know the entirety of it, what you could do is you could simply go to the website, and you will find here in polity, if you just go here, you will find something called a consolidated note on LGBTQIA right in front of you. So if you want to read more about it, this is more than enough as far as the exam is concerned, plus the updates on the transgender rules, everything with what is the policy in India, across the world, what is the law in India, the timeline of developments, the key features of the act, where are the problems, and how can we make life better for LGBTQIA community is all right here. And I certainly recommend that you read it once. Now that you have some time today, there's not much to do. But the editorial per se, the Rainbow of Hope, you could read it once and forget about it. There's really not much to be worried about. Then the editorials on page number 9 are absolutely irrelevant, though there is something that says, should India change its policy on Rohingya? Now, this is, of course, the fact that should India firstly have a dedicated, a comprehensive refugee law? Because in the absence of a refugee law, the decisions that India takes with respect to accepting or not accepting refugees become circumstantial and therefore become inconsistent. On some occasions, you would welcome them. On some occasions, such as the Rohingya issues, you would not be very welcoming towards them. Now, this is essentially a conversation between two people, and of course, uh, uh, it is between an ambassador and uh, a foreign policy expert. You can read it once, honestly, give you a lot of context to things, historical developments. It also explains to you how several Middle Eastern countries also have promised for refugees, but they really haven't done much, and across all of those things. So it's sort of a discussion of some sorts, and you could take some out of it. But even if you don't read it, and if you think it's too much of a hassle, don't bother. If you do have some time and want to understand it with a little bit more of nuance, yes, if you are hopeful of appearing in the interview this year, or generally at some point, if you are appearing for an interview for any other UPSC or state public services exam, you may want to read this, because it gives you a very, very good opinion that you can present before the interview board. But in terms of specifically Rohingyas, no. A larger issue on refugee policy in India is a rights-based issue, and should prepare it not only from a legal standpoint, but also from an ethical standpoint. So because there isn't much and you have some time, you could read it. Otherwise, there is really not much of relevance to this. From here, you could jump to page number 14 directly. And page number 14 does have some important insights. Before that, I'll quickly run you through the text and context column. Now, this is essentially a case study of a state called Kerala, who has been able to manage and mitigate flood damage despite facing a monsoon problem. Now, you could use this as a case study in answering larger questions on flood management, which of course could be asked in geography as well as disaster management. And the kind of models that they've spoken about, the kind of techniques that they've used, whether it's about dam management or relying on global weather reports apart from just IMD predictions, and so on and so forth, are good case studies. So this could be added to your case study anecdote sort of place where you could say that the model adopted by Kerala could be replicated across other different states in the country, and we would be able to manage dam safety and flood management in a far better manner. Apart from that, to sit and make notes out of it and to read it in a fair amount of detail is not really that important. Moving on to page number 14. So you know that the country is currently hosting its National Labour Conference, where the center and the states have come together to finalize and to iron out the details of the social security and the other labor codes, which were passed a few years ago but have really not been implemented yet because you require some amount of center-state coordination, collaboration, and participate. So let's wait for the Labour Conference to get over. Let's understand the key outcomes of it. We'll have enough articles around it, and then we'll give it the focus that it so requires. However, you will see an article which says the aircraft carrier Vikrant to be commissioned on September 2. So you should know that that it is India's first indigenously built aircraft carrier, which means we've built it from ground zero, and it's called Vikrant. So in your bottom month also, I'll put a primer about what Vikrant is, what is the current sort of strength of naval warships and Coast Guard warships. So that is sort of important, and you should know this. Apart from this, you will see something which is called India-Bangladesh discuss river water sharing disputes. This is essentially when they had a joint river commission which was set up a long time ago, and the 38th meeting of that was conducted in Delhi this week. So of course, representatives from both sides sat across the table and discussed what could be done. So for those of you who've just started out your prep, the Teesta water dispute might seem completely alien to you. So what you could do is go to the current affairs tracker, and you will see I have enclosed a link of an article written by the diplomat.com, which explains to you what the dispute is, where is the problem, what more can be done. It's good enough to give you a context. So Teesta water, the river Teesta could be asked in the prelims per se, because it's a hotspot in news for a very, very long time. And you possibly could write about water disputes as a larger answer of Indo-Bangladesh relations. But to have a dedicated question on the Teesta water dispute in the mains exam is, in my opinion, extremely, extremely unlikely, right? So apart from this, there isn't much that has happened. India has its own indigenous sort of navigation system called Gagan, which essentially allows aircrafts who do not have instrument landing systems to use the Gagan system to land in land at airports wherein you have low visibility conditions. This is not something new. It is just a sort of a development that one of the world's largest aircraft manufacturers called Boeing, and one of their variants called the Boeing 787 has been exempted by the government because the manufacturer will have to make certain back-end changes to be able to adapt to the Gagan navigation system. I'll anyways mark it in water month, and I'll give you a context as to what Gagan is and how does it help and why does India do this when you already have the instrument landing system. And unfortunately, the instrument landing system is not a standard issue across all aircraft manufacturers because it has a certain branding of some sort. So that is that as far as page number 14 is concerned. Now comes page number 15. As you know that we are in the run-up of launching 5G network services in India. And the Department of Telecom, which is a part of the Telecom Ministry, has amended the right-of-way rules. Now, the right-of-way rules are essentially a form of delegated legislation, and you do not require a parliamentary sanction for the same, wherein they've tried to cheapen the fee, to have a single clearance system wherein you could get all your paperwork done in one go, and you could also have a faster and a seamless method of installing 5G infrastructure. Now, the thing with 5G versus 4G is that 5G is faster, but it has a lesser range. 4G is relatively slower than 5G, but it has more range. So the number of 5G equipments will have to always be more than 4G equipments. That's the nature of 5G, which means you will have to install 5G equipments in a larger number in closer proximities to give an adequate amount of coverage. So therefore, it does become a fairly important part of it. So this is just to make 5G integration easier. So in a larger answer on 5G in India, where firstly we talk about what is 5G, then we talk about how is it different from 4G, what are the other forms of generations of mobile communication networks. We then talk about, does India need 5G? What are the possible applications of 5G? It therefore then also links to artificial intelligence, machine learning, AI, largely because it makes communication faster with more data consumption capacities. And over and above this, it also therefore could be used in several sectoral use cases. Uh, Lastly, what are the concerns in terms of implementing it, and how are we going to make sure that it is not just an islandic sort of an implementation, and we're able to get a nationwide coverage of 5G networks where we don't even have a nationwide coverage of 4G networks in full swing. So that is that. A very small contextual piece of information was also here, wherein you would know that somebody called Krishnamurthy Subramaniam, who was the former chief economic advisor to the Prime Minister, has now been approved by the Cabinet Committee's appointment committee to be a representative of India at the International Monetary Fund for a period of 3 years. Now, what is very interesting is that Mr. Subramaniam has been a finance professor at the Indian School of Business, and this is a very good example of lateral entry and appointing people in key government positions or representative government positions. This also makes you understand that while the civil services is looking at lateral entry, it's not something which is very new. It's just that we're looking at lateral entry in a far more institutional framework, but lateral entry um, has been in the works for a very, very long time. We've had lawyers being appointed as ambassadors. Raghuram Rajan was, in fact, a classic example of a lateral entry. There have been several cases. It's just that we're now looking at lateral entry in key administrative positions at ministries, and that also a select few in a defined capacity. So that's that for the Hindu newspaper. Today, you don't have anything else to particularly worry about. Now we'll move to the Indian Express. And for those of you who read the Indian Express, now is the time for you to open your Indian Express newspapers. There is a little bit more in the Indian Express today than the Hindu. Not to say that it is extraordinarily path-breaking, but let's start. So the Indian Express actually starts from page number 3. The first 2 pages are editorials. So on page number 3, as you would see, that it is the same piece of information that the Pegasus case has been taken up on the next hearing. The Supreme Court had appointed a committee to examine whether the government has been using Pegasus, which is a spying software developed by an Israeli defense tech firm, on the receipt of course, a journalistic expose of sorts. This is an issue of freedom of speech. This is an issue of digital privacy. This is also an issue of ethics. But until the issue closes off, you don't have to worry too much about it. You could use this as a context on digital rights as well. So that is that. Apart from that, so this is the article that we are referring to. But apart from that, you don't have to worry about the PMLA verdict at the moment. The Supreme Court has just allowed for it to to be reviewed, and it's going to be looking at primarily the bail issues and the ECIR issues and the presumption of innocence issues. That in most cases, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty. In a PMLA ED case, it's the other way around. That, of course, has a greater uh, stress on the defense to prove their innocence than other criminal issues. So wait for this to settle down. There's no hurry at all. And once it does, you can pick it up. In the current affairs tracker, I've given you uh, a rundown of what the judgment was and what were the arguments and why did the judgment come about. In yesterday's Indian Express, there was a brilliant explainer giving you an overview of why is the Supreme Court reviewing it, how can they review it, what are the key contentions, and what lies ahead. I would understand that some of you might be interested in reading about the recruitment of Nepal's Gorkhas in the Indian Army, which is an agreement between two nations, but under the Agnipath scheme. But let Nepal formally agree or disagree to let their Gorkha citizens also be recruited to the Indian Army. If that happens, when that happens, once the final decision is made on that, we'll pick it up accordingly. But otherwise, don't bother too much on that front. From here, you should jump directly to page number 10, which contains the news of the Indo-Bangladesh meeting with respect to the Tista water sharing issue. So a joint rivers commission, which was set up as a dialogue mechanism between India and Bangladesh, are supposed to discuss the Tista Water Treaty. What you could do is go to the Live Notions Current Affairs Tracker, and you will find an article of the diplomat here, as you would have found it in the Hindu. This is something which is common to both the newspapers, and therefore understand what is the issue about, why is there a problem, and so on and so forth. Will you get a direct question in the mains of the Tista water dispute? No. Will you get a larger question on Indo-Bangladesh? Perhaps, maybe. So this becomes a part of that larger answer. And Tista and the river and the geography around it is, of course, something that could be asked in the prelims from an international hotspots point of view. Now, from here, we could move to the next page, which is the editorial page, and which is the explainer page. The Indian Express has put the explainer page before the editorial page. Now, a good explainer on 1 year of Taliban 2.0 in terms of what has happened, what are the changes, what is the general perception of the Afghan people on the Taliban, what is India's current stand, and what is the China-Taliban factor. Good bookmark it. Could be used in a larger answer on Indo-Afghanistan, South Asia, China, India, Afghanistan, and so on and so forth. So read it once, it's important. Surrendering a policy and why you should do it and should you do it at all is essentially about people surrendering their insurance policies at a certain time before they're premature. From a UPSC point of view, it's not relevant, but for financial literacy in general, this is something that you should know and you should also share with your near and dear ones so that they're more financially aware of such implications. We will now move to the editorials. Now, there is an editorial, both the editorials are essentially correlated. One is by Gopal Shankar Narayan, who's a senior advocate of the Supreme Court. And the second is an editorial here about Chief Injustice. Now, both the editorials largely talk about what the Supreme Court is up to, what the Supreme Court plans to do, and how does the Supreme Court plan to take care of its pendencies. There are some breaking issues, there are some constitutional issues, there are some very sensitive issues that the courts will be looking into. This gives you great context in understanding why a review petition or why Article 136 exists, 137 exists, what is the general pendency. For example, you'll see that we have about 71,400 cases which are pending at the moment, and only 53 of which are constitution bench cases, and where at least about 5 judges sit together. We've discussed this before. So read both of these. These are very good articles. It gives you a lot of context. There is nothing that is a specific issue here, but the larger problems of judicial delays and pendencies and priorities and the role of the Supreme Court, it gives you a sense of understanding, right? Now, Apart from that, the editorial below the first two, which is stepping up to the world in terms of India's proximity to the West and its ties with the powers, gives it a foreign policy advantage. Now, this is essentially an overall assessment of how India is shaping up its foreign policy. What are the larger arrangements, agreements, the kind of climate that India is generating for itself, and all of those things. So it is a good editorial because it could be used in an essay in terms of whether India will be a superpower, or you would not get an IR question on foreign policy of India in general because it's too vague. But in an essay, this is very good in terms of where does India see itself in the larger context of the world. So therefore, it should be done in the right amount of detail, good, and keep it aside as a bookmark towards the larger topic of India's role or India's foreign policy or the world order in India. And you, by the end of 6, 7 months, you'll have 4, 5 very good articles on what India's foreign policy is, should have been. Because the advantage of articles like this is that they touch on a lot of parallel issues. They'll talk about India's relation with the West, with South Asia. It will talk about specifically Europe. It will talk about its immediate neighborhood, the Indo-Pacific in general. It refers to the AUKUS, ASEAN, RCEP. So there's a lot that India does and gets into as far as the foreign policy front is concerned. So you should certainly do this. Now, apart from this, when we move from here, we move to page number 13, which also has the next set of editorials. So when we look at page number 13, finally, we have a decent editorial which refers to the wrong kind of cleanup, which is what is fundamentally wrong with sports governance and sports policy. I have been shouting about this for a long time. And now that we finally have an editorial, I can put things into place, and a larger video on sports governance and sports policy in India as a part of What a Week could be released. And this editorial, which says Laddu Gopal in Amrit Kal, could be sort of left out. Just not a lot of relevance here. The Reverie debate and the bitter aftertaste. This is essentially about how the center and the states are managing the finances from a collaborative standpoint, and the states are having more difficulties with the larger share. So in a larger issue of fiscal federalism and center-state relations or center-state financial relations, it is a very, very good article, and therefore should definitely be read, especially because it is from a person who's a member of parliament from a party who's not the government. So you'll be able to get a critical analysis of why the states are at an inherent disadvantage when it comes to fiscal empowerment in the country. So that is that as far as the Indian Express is concerned. Everything else in the Indian Express today, the rest of the pages could simply be ignored. There's not much happening. So you can not worry too much about it, carry on with your day and finish up and have a good Friday. Thank you. Bye-bye.